The wind howled across the empty plains of Montana like a wounded animal. Snow fell in heavy sheets, swallowing the two-lane road that wound between the pine-covered hills. At the edge of that road stood an old farmhouse set's white paint faded to gray, its porch light flickering like a heartbeat fighting against the dark. Inside, Eleanor Hayes, 78 years old and living alone since her husband's passing, stared out the frosted window. She clutched her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. The storm was worse than she'd expected. It had been years since she'd seen snow this thick. Even the radio, whispering old country tunes, crackled with static warnings. Blizzard conditions. Stay indoors. She sighed and placed another log into the crackling fire. The scent of pine filled the living room, blending with the faint aroma of chicken soup simmering in the kitchen. Eleanor was used to solitude, was her quiet companion, but tonight, she couldn't shake a strange feeling that something was about to happen. Far down the road, through the blur of snow, came a sound that didn't belong to the storm, a low rumble. Faint at first, then growing louder. It was mechanical, metallic, and impossible. Motorcycles? In this weather, she whispered, peering through the foggy glass. Moments later, faint headlights appeared, then more, weaving slowly through the storm until 15 massive bikes came crawling into her driveway. Engines coughing, tires sliding in the snow. The riders were covered in leather and patches, their faces masked by helmets and ice. The words Iron Serpents MC were painted on their backs. Eleanor's first instinct was fear. News stories about biker gangs flashed through her mind. Try 'em. She reached for the phone, then stopped. She looked outside again, and what she saw made her heart soften. They weren't roaring menaces, they were freezing. Shivering lost souls in the storm. One of them, tall and broad-shouldered, dismounted and walked toward the porch. He pulled off his helmet, revealing a rugged man in his 40s, his beard dusted with snow. He knocked gently 3 polite taps. Eleanor hesitated, then opened the door. "Ma'am," the man said, his voice deep but respectful. "We're sorry to bother you. We didn't mean to scare you. The road's shut down, we can't see a damn thing out there. The gas station's 15 miles back, and our bikes are freezing up. Could we maybe just wait on your porch till it eases up?" Eleanor studied him. His eyes weren't cruel, they were tired. Behind him, the others stood silently, their breath rising in white clouds. She looked past him into the storm. The thought of men freezing to death on her property twisted in her chest. "Good heavens," she said. "You can't stay out there, you'll freeze. Come inside. All of you." The man blinked in surprise. "Ma'am, we don't want to cause any trouble." "Trouble?" Eleanor interrupted with a soft chuckle. "You look like you're about to turn into icicles." Boots off at the door. "I just mopped." The bikers exchanged glances, half confused, half amused, but obeyed. One by one, they stomped the snow from their boots and filed into the old farmhouse. The warmth of the fire hit them like sunlight after a storm. Steam rose from their jackets as they crowded near the hearth, rubbing their hands. Sighing in relief, Eleanor bustled around like a grandmother hen. "There's soup on the stove," she said. "It's not much, but it's hot. And I've got blankets in the chest." The men stared at her, not quite believing what they were hearing. One of them, a lanky, tattooed fellow named Rex, laughed under his breath. "Man, this is wild. We look like a bunch of wolves, and she's feeding us soup." Eleanor turned with a wooden spoon in hand. "Don't flatter yourself, dear. Wolves have better manners." The leader, who introduced himself as Mason, grinned for the first time. "You're something else, ma'am." "And you're dripping all over my rug," she replied. Smiling as the night wore on, the farmhouse filled with the sounds of spoons clinking, fire crackling, and laughter echoing off the old wooden walls. Eleanor listened to their stories, how they were on their way to a charity ride for veterans, how they'd gotten caught in the storm, how Mason used to be a mechanic before life took a few rough turns. When the clock struck midnight, Eleanor laid out blankets across the living room floor. "You boys can sleep here," she said, "but no smoking inside. My late husband hated that." "Yes, ma'am," several of them said almost in unison, grinning like chastised schoolboys. Eleanor smiled faintly as she turned off the lamp. "Good night, gentlemen, and God bless you." Outside, the storm screamed against the windows. Inside, 15 rough bikers slept peacefully under the roof of a 70-yard-old widow. What none of them knew was that this simple act of kindness, this one night of warmth, would ripple far beyond the walls of that farmhouse. Because the next morning, when Eleanor woke to the sound of engines again, the ground outside trembled, and when she opened her door, her eyes filled with tears.